My name is Joe Karns and the co-founder here. So I have been in blockchain for many, many years, dating back to like 2013, 2014 when Bitcoin was $3. And I built mining rigs. I was really into crypto. I had 13 machines running in my basement at one time, and then got into um, banking. I have some finance background. I worked for Wells Fargo Bank. And as this rise of the DeFi, category within crypto really started exploding about a year ago, we started looking closer at how can we take our real world business, so to speak, which is WID, and take that expertise and the strong partnerships we had in big data and translate that and migrate it into a decentralized blockchain driven company that could be revolutionary in a way that not only would we have this huge identity graph and enable users to own and monetize their own data instead of the tech giants controlling and stealing their data, basically, but also do so in a decentralized way where instead of having to have a profit motive at the center of that equation where perhaps only 10 or 15% of all the revenue could flow back to the end users where it belongs in this decentralized space, 100% of the revenue can flow back to the end user. So that's what we set out to do, and we think we have the perfect recipe of, a big disruptive idea on the real big data company side, but using DeFi as the launch vehicle to get us to the moon.
So what are the problems in the data industry that Swap is actually happening to solve? Because data is a very complicated kind of like industry. There's so many owners and different layers
Right.
to that.
And that's a great question. And it's very easy to answer. So today you will see 100 ads, over 100 ads. Every single person on earth on average sees 100 ads per day, but you get paid zero. So the problem is you get paid zero. Okay. And so we take for granted the fact that we are the product for the tech giants and that we think we're getting these free tools and Gmail and stuff from them, but they're still making, $1.2 trillion per year collectively. And there's about 8 or 10 of these big bloated middlemen in the data economy. They stand between the advertisers who want to run ads to targeted audiences and us who are the product. So we have our own data, our tracking data, websites we go to, apps we have installed, things we do online, and people are just giving that away for free. And they don't even understand how much value that is. So that is the problem. And what we solve is taking those big bloated middlemen in between us and the advertisers and that $1.2 trillion per year in the data monetization industry and break it up, just like what Uber did to the taxi cab industry. They completely turned it upside down because instead of having cab unions charging huge fees for medallions that have to go on taxi cabs and all that bloated middlemen stuff, we remove that and we simply connect the end user who has the data in your phone and for you to simply install, authorize, and earn. So it's actually very similar to what Brave browser does. I don't know if you use Brave, but they built it off of the Chrome interface. So it's like Chrome browser, but it blocks all the ads and they say, hey, just do what you normally would be doing and we'll start paying you tokens. And the way that they're doing that is for people who press a button in the browser and say, yes, I accept you to show me some ads, as long as it's within reason. As long as you see a few ads a day, they start paying you in their Ethereum-based tokens, similar to what we would be doing. So in our system, it's a much wider ecosystem because with Brave, they're only tracking what you're doing in that browser. In our ecosystem, users install the smartphone app. They'll see a list of their social media accounts, bank accounts, credit card accounts, anything they have that they feel comfortable opting in to share. They can authorize those. And that means that they are fully opting in to share with us an encrypted version of a much wider range of data that our graph then layers on top of each other, which means that ultimately this won't just be the first decentralized identity graph in the world. It will be the largest, bigger than Facebook, bigger than Google, because they only have their sources to pull from, and they can try and create other partnerships and things. But ours is fully opted in. So they use these sneaky tactics to try and get people's data, whereas ours, the only reason someone would install our app is knowing that they're entering into basically a deal where they're naming Swapp as their licensed data broker, essentially. And it all happens, automatically with the smart contract. But that's essentially what's happening. They install, they authorize their accounts, and then they start earning tokens in exchange for their data. And they're earning the equivalent of 100% of the data monetization revenue. We're not standing in the middle of it, because this is now totally decentralized, and everyone in the community that owns these tokens is now participating in the ownership and utility of the ecosystem.
Yeah, couple things additional. For the people currently at Hobby ID, we see that every day we receive, as every other data management company, from our partners, or they receive from us, what people search on the internet, what you talk, your Siri, and every voice search optimization, or these features in the marketing comes out just because this tracked information about the person is so much right now. You get as a data management company, and then you compile it, sell it to brands. Hey, yesterday he talked about Nike. Here's your guy. He wants Nike. Go advertise him. Now, why, if person wouldn't exist, that data wouldn't be there. And this market of $1.4 trillion market wouldn't be in place when these huge data management companies, Google's, Facebook's, everybody monetizing over it. And why person shouldn't be getting compensated? I am the raw material. Why wouldn't I get paid? I am doing my search. I am talking about it. I am bringing that to you. Some can argue, as Joe said, hey, we are giving you free product. Oh, that free product doesn't cost anything in comparison what you are making. It's from that standpoint. And besides that, put the monetization aside. What about my privacy rights? What about I don't want anybody sell my data? Right. There is no tool exists to do that. That's the swap comes into play.
So how does that work? So it would be any kind of like information or any kind of like apps on my phone only, or on my computer?
Let's say you install the app here on your phone. You get a permission notification, location service, and then you enter the information. If app is the free, in most cases, I would say 98% of the cases, that app is free because they are collecting location data, they are collecting different types of verified data on your phone, and they are going to sell it in the different marketplaces. You can go to any marketplace, you can see Outlook app, you can see any app. Just tell me any app, I can show you where to buy the data about that app legally. And you signing your rights to them when you are installing it. In Swap, you're gonna select the Swap as a data, your legal guardian of your data rights. And we have a reserve, even if any company doesn't want to comply with that, we can sue them with that reserved money. So to protect your data rights.
Can I show my screen? This picture sums it all up, and it makes it very easy to understand.
Yeah.
Can I show my screen? I need the rights.
Now we are talking about rights. Let's do it. Okay,
are you giving him consent now?
Yeah.
All right. So can you see the screen here?
Mm-hmm.
So this picture kind of says it all. This is what a user would see when they log in. And in each country, it's going to be a little bit different, because obviously not all of these US banks and things, credit cards, American Express, are in all the countries, may have your local bank there. But the idea is the same. So while this might seem a little scary at first, that, well, I'm going to be logging into my shopping app, this Ibotta, they basically give people huge savings and coupons to go to the shopping, to go to the grocery store or Walmart. And in exchange for them giving you discounts, they track everything you purchase. They're basically scanning your receipt. And that's incredibly powerful at the advertiser level because they could say, hey, I sell this beer or this toothpaste or whatever the product is. And those advertisers can target people who they know buy their competitor's product. So they're in market to buy that particular product. So that shopping app alone, if someone connects this, then yes, you're sharing what that company is collecting on you. But instead of you earning nothing, you then get put into the equation, the earning equation of these apps. So even though it's kind of scary to think about all these companies are tracking you, well, they are. And so therefore, since they're tracking you already, wouldn't it be better to start getting paid for that? Now, there's going to be some percentage of people who just don't want to be tracked at all. We don't think it's going to be very many because people like getting paid. So it's probably going to be somewhere like 5, 10, maybe 12% of people that want to use our app for the opposite reason. So if a user installs it and they don't want to have anything to do with this and they want to say, you know what, just forget me. I want to become invisible. They can press a button and it doesn't connect to any of these and instead sends a signal to the global opt-out databases that control GDPR and all these other things. And it erases them or it puts them on like the do not call list of emailing and tracking. So that may not be a permanent fix, but that is the most privacy protecting way that we can help users become as invisible as possible and be tracked as little as possible. So there's really two options when you log in.
Also, and additionally, I want to mention first quick thing here. Adoption of this app, while people knows it, how you will come, since we are selling all that data on each person, every data management company, we usually have on average 200 pieces of data. And then when you will verify your account, we're going to pre-fill all that information there. You just need to verify and to say which one is which, is yours or not. And after that one, you can control that data or you can monetize it. Additionally, we will have browser extensions where all your behavior, now instead of abc.com selling your data, behavior data, now you will be owner of it. You can sell it through the Swapp, that data, and monetize it. If you have a company, you want to monetize company data as well. In that case, you can do in your profile company section. When it comes to this controlling the data, in Europe, it's really highly much. They're regulated. They're a front runner in this one. They have in Estonia, in different countries. I mean, if you send even one email without permission, your servers are going to get blocked. Firsthand, I know it because we have ESP as well for our clients. Couple times it happened. Clients sent the email to the European, audience. Our servers got blocked just from the standpoint that how controlled it, because that person one time comes back and says, hey, I never signed up for this one. Now server providing company has an obligation to investigate. First they are blocking, then investigating, then you have to prove that no, you didn't, he was signed up, or I'm gonna penalize my client, all these things. So they really taking it seriously. Right. Here in the US, all those data centers are available, but nobody controls it.
I can also see the phone contacts. For example, do you collect the phone contacts? And when I sign up or when I download the app, what kind of information do I have to put in? Is it enabled by phone number, or is it enabled by
phone or the email address? And then it is, I mean, you don't need, we already, as soon as you put your email address, it will send you verification. We already have your phone number and the email address.
Right.
But so it's just a verifier.
First and foremost is the device ID or MAID that recognizes the device itself and the phone number. And that's the most unique thing about a person, because you could have 2 or 3 email addresses. Most people do. So we look at the device first. The other reason why it's important to look at the device first is to stop scammers from abusing the system. So imagine if you could create a bot that made it look like you had 10,000 phones. So that's why focusing on the device ID first is how you're initially authenticated. No different than when you install Telegram on your phone or any app or even like a blockchain type wallet. It's linked to that device first.
Right.
And so all of this information that would be passed is totally encrypted or hashed. So again, it seems scary to give away your phone contacts, but people don't even realize this. When you use Gmail, all your contacts are going to Google. And when you, if you've ever installed LinkedIn,
right?
even LinkedIn, all your business contacts are actually that LinkedIn app scans your phone and looks at all of your contacts and says, oh, who do you know in LinkedIn? And they're positioning it in a way that sounds friendly. Like, hey, let's see who you know on LinkedIn. But what that really is doing is giving them all your contacts.
And onboarding them as a new, basically, users, if they're not, oh, select all of them, invite them, or all these things are bringing to the point that, yep, you're pretending that you are doing it good for me and to try and connect me with everybody. But in reality, you are trying to get more people to collect more data and then launch a advertising platform inside it that, oh, it's for advertisers. You can order, run campaigns.
Right. So when anyone looks at this, it's like this part is the shock. It's the reality check of the state of the union as far as privacy and data goes, which is a little scary. So that's why it's important to kind of first educate ourselves on how this ecosystem works today, so you can best determine how you want to use the app. Is it to become invisible, or is it to monetize your data and start getting paid?
No, this is great. So my question is also, how about the voice kind of like apps, audio apps like WhatsApp or Telegram or even like Clubhouse? Or does, for example, Swapp listen or collects the data, kind of like the voice data, if it's, for example, if I'm talking on a phone or even the surrounding, no? And
So,
how about the WhatsApp? How about the Telegram?
So we can't, so we have to use the legitimate API connections and fields made available to us from these partners. And they don't share all of the information because some of it they want to keep secret and proprietary to their platforms. So unfortunately, since Amazon's Alexa is listening to everything we say, if we have an integration with Amazon, they're not going to pass that data to us because they won't share that with anyone.
Unless we pay. Let's talk about Fitbit, your all health data. Yeah, what you're running, your Apple Watch and everything else, collecting all that data. But in reality, that data, you can log in from here to your Fitbit account. It will synchronize it. You can see the different, even not just the collecting data, you can use it, those indicators here to check some different, what was your heartbeat or other things. On the interface, you can see it. Besides that one, it will be compiling it the way that first you have a control. Second, if you choose to monetize, you can monetize, you can earn money out of it. And coming to the Alexas, WhatsApp even says on last their privacy change, they also mentioned it. They were pressured to mention it. Facebook said, we are analyzing your data and then sending it to the Facebook in order to retarget you back with the ads. And same thing with the Alexa, same thing with the Siri. I mean, sometimes maybe you have come across, you talk about not typing, not searching anything, you just talk about something, and then you start seeing it. It is because Siri actively listening.
I've actually experienced once I was thinking about something. Literally, I have seen that, but I don't know what kind of apps is actually measuring my brain interference data. So that's also
not quite yet.
That might be right there. We don't know yet.
That's scary.
No, this is great. And how, as a user, can I monetize this data? So I give out all this on the app, and then I collect, perhaps, or I give permission and collect token. And how does that work?
Very simple. So the slogan is install, authorize, earn. That's it. Right. So once you authenticate these accounts that you have already, if that's what you choose to do as a user to monetize your data, that starts feeding that data into the database, and the pipes will be connected already to funnel that to these big data exchange partners that all the big data companies use. And we have an unfair advantage, so to speak, that in our real world data company, HubUID, we've already formed all these partnerships. So whereas there are some apps out there that kind of try and do this, they're starting from zero. They don't have any of these partnerships. They're basically just starting with no users and trying to work their way up. But when you start with no users, there's no big data buyers that want to even talk to you. You have to be in the millions of users already. So we have been working on this. We've been in the data business for years, forming those solid partnerships. So all we're doing with this, as we sort of decentralize the data company, is to connect the pipes to the existing strong partnerships. And so the data monetization revenue will start flowing fairly quickly. And that's where it gets into this really cool, autonomous type blockchain thing, where we can't pay, nor do we want to pay the users in US dollars or euros. They need to get paid in our tokens. So that's the first time you see the swap token, is that you authorize this, and in your wallet, in the app, you start receiving swap tokens as your rewards. And they're like any ERC20 token. They could be exchanged on Uniswap or anything you'd like. But it's unique how those are minted. So our system isn't creating them from nothing. Right now, today's the first day of our 30-day launch. Once the 30 days ends and we go live on Uniswap, all of the tokens that will be minted are basically minted at that point, which means that every time the entity or the decentralized entity receives this revenue stream, it has to auto convert it into swap tokens. So that produces a buying pressure. So that's one way of a number of ways that the token price is supported, stabilized, and should theoretically go up over time, is that there's this additional constant buying pressure of the token through the data monetization that's being generated from this app, just simply to do that conversion and to issue the rewards due to the end users.
If you finished, I would like to add a couple things there. First, I will touch on the data monetization. Currently, you asked about how it will be monetized. Monetizing standpoint, let's say currently we have a client who has 1 million plus visitors on the website. They come, we give them certain SDKs or the different scripts. Tracking scripts they put on the website, and then that data gets collected, digital fingerprint created for each visitor and matched to our databases to see who that person is. And besides that one, it collects the rest of his behavior data, compiles it now, and then have your ID infrastructure created that way that we push it to other marketplaces, data selling storefronts, we call them. And then like a LiveRamp or the Narrow, we put it there, and then any company comes by, selects for this abc.com or any website, selects from there, here is the audience. How much is that? Depends on how many per day you have a visitors. And then that's how it works easily. Then money came in, and this website takes his portion after we deduct the expenses and everything else. Same thing with Swap. Swap is directly will be data that you are authorizing and giving for sale. Only that data will be compiled and pushed out of to our partners. So any other company, not only our HobbyID's clients, but every other company will have access if you gave a permission. And additional to that one, if you most of the money will be earned for a user is going to be from the Chrome extension or any browser extension you install. That way you can track a lot of things, you can control your settings, and it will actively collect the data, what you are doing, except excluding all sensitive information. You put their password, everything else, it automatically takes, even doesn't record. Even currently, we have different platforms that tracking the link shorteners, other things. That kind of data never gets recorded. It's literally not right to do that. We don't have the right to do that. Even the user wants it. But all that data will be created, hashed, and then sold. We don't, system doesn't sell anybody your exactly words you typed. It just compiles, makes it, oh, you mentioned there's knife. It will compile based on the AI and machine learning on the other end. It compiles and defines which audience you will be related to, and that's how it sells.
Yeah,
exactly. That was actually my next question. So, well, obviously, data.
I thought that was a question.
has been data has been a very complicated and controversial topic. We know data is the new oil, right? It's more than $1 trillion industry. And then again, we have a lot of data, fragmented data, then different data centers. And the problem is regulation. And at the top of that, the technology that doesn't or didn't exist before, perhaps machine learning or even like DeFi right now. So your servers, so is it a decentralized server that you have, or
will
is it
be?
Kind of
yeah. So right now we're still, all of the data still lives in the real world company. And as our token launches right now, and within probably, I don't know, 3 to 4 months, the app will be finished. It'll be launched on the iOS and Android store. And the long-term goal is to decentralize as many parts of this as possible. There's IPFS solutions now. There are real ways, finally, in the blockchain world to actually run a hyperscale, fast database fully on the blockchain. So that's the goal, is to get there.
Fully on the blockchain?
Fully on the, I want to add, there's a few companies I want to mention. Ocean Protocol, there's a data. In that, it is built for data. It is built for the storing the data and dealing with data. We are going to, for the, Swap has two parts. One, DeFi, that's a decentralized, basically money, the tokens gets a value on the use case we are launching. And second part is the app. Or the web app or browser extensions. That part, we will be, our goal is to get first onboard people and then start creating everybody sensitive. First, we'll start PII data, personal identifiable data, fully transferred to the, and stored on the blockchain. And then starting from there, we will work on the creating different solutions, storing rest of the data, because storing data on blockchain, okay, it's easy. It's not that complicated to do that in comparison to then going and retracting that data back.
Exactly, and you can even change that data.
You can put it.
You can update it, can you?
Sorry?
Yes, it can be updated.
It updates. It just creates a new version chain connected to that one. Latest version is the most updated one. It's basically
and then you can do comparison.
mine's new one.
And how's machine learning and AI and other technology and tools are playing at Swapp?
A lot. So there's so many cool things. So today, like, just think about from the data standpoint of being able to have efficient targeting and showing your ads to the exact right person. I'm sure you've seen ads where it seems disconnected. You're like, why am I even seeing this commercial? Or why is this ad? Like, so it's not a perfect solution today, but we represent the furthering along of that targeting capability to make it laser focused. So let's look at maybe like a car dealer. If a car dealer goes to one of these data exchanges and they say, I want an audience of people who are interested in buying a Mercedes because I'm going to run my Mercedes ads at them. They might buy a list from cars.com that say, here's a list of targeting IDs or devices that was on this page looking at this Mercedes. They must be close to buying one, but I look at that page all the time and I'm not buying one. I just like the car. So that's the best they could do. But with this, what the machine learning does is it layers together, okay, what are all these different things from all these different sources doing with these people that are in common or show a stronger propensity or more in-market behavioral signals. So imagine, instead of having just knowing the person was on this car website, to know that they were on the car website this many times within this many days on these different browsers, and they just had their credit pulled that we know from TransUnion at a Mercedes dealership yesterday, and the GPS location that they voluntarily gave us from their device shows that their phone was at a Mercedes dealership yesterday. So there's all these different things that the machine learning can figure out by looking at the end results and then going back and seeing what did these people have in common? What were they doing?
Right. You just mentioned that I remembered something. McDonald's is actually using that right now. So then they can track your GPS and they can track obviously your profile. And once you are close to one of the locations of McDonald's, just all of a sudden a deal or a coupon shows up in your screen that, this is crazy.
Exactly. And I want to mention one thing. I mean, people who's watching this or will be maybe, and then from that standpoint, that don't get scared. Swap is not going to do it just because, like, to do all these crazy things and learn everything about you. No, we already do it from the different angle. We connect with all 5-6 hour vendors, but at the same time, we get that information. While we are training that AI, we understand that instead of paying 5 company that sells your data and the 5 times, why not it will be in one place, and then instead of paying these guys 50,000 a month, 100,000 a month to each of them to get that data, why not that data will be owned and sold by you? And that is the goal. And then if you don't want to, it will not do that. I mean, that's my goal is I don't want my kid in the future not to have a solution to see there, hey, whatever like her privacy being invaded, it's really one of the biggest problems for me. And I want the person to have a choice. Do I want to sell it? Do I want you to track me and my credit score and everything, ending up my location, where I want to eat, what I did, where I drove, and everything without my permission, even though I don't know you are doing it? Because
this is great. I'm just actually signing up right now. So,
well, what's interesting too is that this is not only incredibly powerful, but by decentralizing it, it removes kind of like the need to trust us. Like, we don't want people to have to trust us personally. We want to prove that this is so decentralized and perfectly crafted and all the safety mechanisms are in place that users can feel confident that, like, you know what, I'd rather have this decentralized solid entity, controlling my data where I can turn it on or off versus having the tech giants control it, where yes, I can maybe delete my Facebook account, but they're still going to track me any way they can.
You have to wait 14 days.
Right.
You cannot delete right away.
Yeah, and I don't think they ever stop really tracking you. They might delete a few things, from your phone, but they still know who you are and they still have a record on you.
Besides that one, we added even currently on the auction page, you can see on DeFi platform, we will have a voting system, which is already built. We will release it as well. If outside of roadmap to take to some place, besides that one, if any change needs to be done to the Swap app and as well as the Swap, DeFi platform, it will be put it on the vote on the open for whole community. Whoever owns a token can vote and decide if they want that feature, that step, that contract, it will be done. Otherwise, it's not. And that way, we want all the community to get involved, not only us to build it. I just don't have that much experience managing open source projects and looking for currently discussing and looking for different developers who are like-minded, who will join the team and will take it to more open source and bring more value. I believe in one thing: more variety and the diversity you have in the team, better and much more creative it will get, and the unique product is going to come out of that one. That is the purpose of this swap. It's for everybody, and everybody just to protect something. That is
exactly. And even Swap doesn't own your data. I would take
you own fully yourself. Yep.
Exactly. Yep. And what is the unique thing about the Swap protocol versus other DeFi projects out there?
There's an obvious one. There's an obvious one. I believe that DeFi is the coolest thing to ever happen to crypto and blockchain, but at the same time, 95% of these projects have no real world company behind them. You can go to Sushi Swap and you can do things on the website, but what does it do in the real world? Nothing. Where's their real company in the real world? Doesn't exist. So I don't know this for certain, but I would venture to say no more than maybe 10% of all of these DeFi projects in the entire world have a real company behind them. So that I think is the biggest difference, is that instead of us starting as code as a smart contract, we started as a real company with a grand vision, and we're decentralizing it and moving it over to a decentralized blockchain application. I think that's the biggest difference. And then, of course, there's all the other cool things that sort of, it's like the all-star cast of everything, all the biggest launches from the last 12 to 14 months. We've sort of modeled the back end off of the best ideas. So it's sort of like an all-star system. So if you look at, like the launch here, there have been a few projects that have done something similar to this, and it usually works very well. So this is an auction style launch, right? So the first day that this went live is today. So unlike the crazy ICO launches made popular during 2017, and some still happening today, fortunately or unfortunately, is that you can launch a token and there's really no way to incentivize people other than bonusing them or giving them more for free. And that usually creates a pump and dump type atmosphere. So to avoid that, by doing it this way, where everyone comes in who wants to reserve swap tokens and they bring their Ethereum. So if I were to go to reserve on today, I can deposit ETH and reserve a certain number of swap tokens. And this is known as a 100% fair launch, because if I come in with $50 or I come in with $5 million, the person, everyone in day one gets averaged based on your percentage of ETH that you put in. So if 5 million tokens will be issued today, by the end of today, your percentage of ETH compared to the total amount of ETH is exactly how many of those 5 million tokens you'll get. And based on today's price of ETH, which is about $3,500, you could kind of guess how good of a deal you got on those tokens. So once this 30 days is finished, what happens is all of that ETH that's being stored in this smart contract gets programmatically sent to Uniswap and paired with an equal amount of swap tokens. And that ETH/swap pair on Uniswap is locked forever. And the owner keys are burned in the smart contract. They're programmatically burned. So nobody will ever control this potentially millions of dollars worth of ETH. And that does a couple of cool things. It locks the liquidity pool forever. The 0.3% trading fees that any pool on Uniswap earns can't be taken out. So that actually grows the pool, the value of the pool, without even any trading activity going on. And that produces what's known as a price floor. So unlike other tokens, there will be a lowest amount the token can ever go down to. And of course, it's still lower than the current price, but it can't actually ever go to zero, which is a crazy thing to think about, that any token, even if there was a black swan event and every single token holder sold every single swap token at the same time, not only would every single person be made whole and receive their exchange, but there would be a minimum amount it could ever fall to. So there's lots of these cool things that we could make possible because of modeling the launch this way, and to start out with this big pile of ETH that's actually supporting the value of the swap token from day one.
Right. And we're just talking about the first layer. I mean, as the project is developing, we will see different layers coming out. So
yeah. Can you show, even though we blocked it, burn page and as well as the pools? Here, for example, since the tokens I don't like something to be a lot, honestly. I mean, from that standpoint, we will, since Swap is going to automatically buy using a transaction fees and the other initial revenue sources that gets generated, will be buying and burning almost half of its tokens over the next year and a half, max 2 years. We are trying to get there. Half of its tokens. Besides that one, it will additionally do
Buying and
user holds a token on his hand. Basically, you put it on the liquidity pools. These yield farming platforms, they can earn money. Let's say user earns swap token selling his data. And then instead of, if he doesn't need it, he can bring it, put it, let's say for last one, this swap pool. And it will earn certain couple hundred percent additional to his tokens, which adds more value. Today's day, your money is sitting at the bank in dollars. I mean, every day you are losing 0.5, basically. Your value of your token annually goes down 0.5%. And you're actually losing keeping it at the bank, unless banks are changing the different model. Yeah. So there are more features I'm sort of going to be there for this auction. Everybody can, you don't need to, for example, invest money. You can click referral link and create your referral link tied to your wallet and share it. Your influencer, you can earn 10% of the whatever amount will be invested through that link during the auction. And at the end of the auction, you will claim it. And in previous projects who use this model, some influencers have earned somewhere between $50,000 to $258,000 just during that 30-40 days.
So basically, it's an exchange data. We're talking about, yep. And is it going to be also acting as a SaaS? So that a company could subscribe, and since it is encrypted data, so then users like me, I can sell my data, for example, if LinkedIn wants to get in, just like get some analysis, right? Or some...
Not exactly. So that is covered, it's kept secret by design for privacy reasons. So when the user clicks to authenticate, it'll just have a screen pop up and it's like, okay, log into your LinkedIn account. Okay, do you accept to share your data with Swapp? Yes. Once that's authenticated, that the data just flows through the system. Like you don't see any of it, but there will be fields in your profile. Right. So as those fields, that the data that is passed is updated, and you can see like, okay, is this your name? So like if a woman's last name changed because they got married, that might be wrong in the database. Maybe because our data might not be as updated as what they just did getting married last week, as one example. So she could update her name if that isn't correct, if the middle initial is wrong, whatever. So you do have some insight into the data that is into your profile that's living on the blockchain, but you don't see like a real stream of, what's being passed.
Besides that one, I want to mention, I'm sorry, Azam. Let's say you have your email address. And over time, we have a feature that will come on the stage 3. On each of your data, you will see which company you connected using that data and which company is selling it without your permission, or which company is using it for what purposes. All this will be done through the APIs. The day we will release the single sign-on feature, you can sign up for any services, different places using your Swapp ID.
Right.
And that is the eventual where it takes that in one place, now you can control what they are going to sell and do you want to pass it to them or not.
Right. So
go ahead, sorry.
You asked about kind of what the DeFi side can do. So this screen might be a little hard to see. I'll make it bigger. So there's 3 staking pools, and this will be unlocked after day 30 of our 30-day sort of pre-sale launch that we start today. So on June 8th is sort of the launch day where the token goes live on Uniswap, and these other features, the DeFi type stuff on the website, should be launched. So pool number 1 is purely a stablecoin pool. And each of these are sort of like decentralized finance products for 3 different risk tolerances. So someone who maybe is new with crypto, or they want to dip their toe in the water, or maybe a big institutional investor that doesn't want the price volatility of being in any token that can change. They can just be in USDC, Tether, DAI, or synthetic USD, all stable coins, and you can deposit any variety, any amount of those 4 into this pool. You'll see that the colors represent my share in the total pool balance, and receive rewards in the form of swap tokens. So this one is probably going to come out at about, 50, 60% APY, which may not sound huge in the crypto world, but when you compare it to a money market account at a traditional bank or a CD at a traditional bank, they're paying you like 8%. So to have no price volatility of the underlying asset because you're just depositing USDC or DAI or stablecoin, you could be in here a week, a month, a year, and it can't go up or down. The only thing that can change is the value of the swap token that you're receiving as rewards. So if you hold those could go up or down. But if you cash them out, then obviously you'd get whatever the equivalent amount was of the token you're swapping it for. So that's the stablecoin pool.
Right. And does the number of permissions for different apps that I provide would add to the value of or the number of the tokens that I receive? Like the higher the number of the apps that give permission?
Yes. Yeah. So that question pertains to the smartphone side, and I'll address that shortly, but it's important to realize that these two systems are totally separate from one another, right. And they could both actually live without each other. We've paired this together just to make it an awesome, combination of things. So to answer your question, yes, each person receives a different amount of swap tokens depending on the value of their activity. So while we don't want to choose, who's more or less valuable, what ends up happening at the advertiser level is different advertisers are simply willing to pay more or less for
different apps
to target particular users. It's no different than on Google AdWords. If you type in, if you're a personal injury attorney or a DUI attorney, they pay $200 a click for one click on when they run their ads on AdWords versus someone selling, an app might be paying $1 per click. So what's the difference between one person paying $200 a click and one person paying $1 a click is the attorney could earn millions of dollars if he gets one case from what comes from those ads. So any advertiser in the real world is weighing out their risk versus reward and how much they're willing to pay to target someone. Okay. So if you are a user and you install the Swap app and you're just the average person who goes to the average websites, you're going to get an average amount of swap tokens. If you're a high net worth individual and it's detected that you're looking at, a Ferrari website or you're looking at yachts to buy, there's going to be signals that indicate at the advertiser level, like, hey, this is a person that's worth more to advertise to. And therefore, there's going to be more high-end advertisers paying higher dollar amounts to advertise to you. They're going to pay more to have you in a list. Right. To advertise to. So therefore, if that generates more dollar revenue and that gets auto converted to swap tokens, then you will receive more swap tokens.
So then would Swap would be transparent to provide that kind of like activity or that kind of like analysis to the users that perhaps it could be noted. Me as a user that I would understand how the model works. And if, for example, it's also kind of like incentivizing me that, for example, if I follow these kind of like steps or if I download these apps and if I increase my activity, for example, from 20% to 70%, I might actually earn more, even though my data is being protected. Would that be also something that you guys are looking at?
That could open the door to people performing fake behaviors to try and game the system. It's really not that much more in the grand scheme of things because advertisers pay for banner ad impressions in CPM or cost per mil. So for every 1,000 banner impressions, they're paying a few pennies. So even though the CPM rate to run an ad to someone looking at a Mercedes is much higher than running an ad to look at someone who's looking for a sale at Walmart, it's much more expensive for the advertiser, but for the end user, that might be worth like an extra 0.2 cents. So it's not a huge difference. But if everything you look at and everything you do and you land on checkout pages and receipt pages of Amazon for high ticket items, there's ways to prove that you actually purchased stuff, not just looked at it, and that's going to be worth more.
One quick answer on that one, because of each piece of the data has a different price, because email has different price than your behavior data or how many times you use the internet, what kind of things you search, and what audiences you are getting into. Each even audience has different price. And from that standpoint, yes, the long story short, the plan is to show on the designs and the front ends we have already built that user will be able to see while you are activating, giving a permissions, it will show approximately, but not exact. Approximately, if somebody would purchase full your data profile, which is oftenly happens for data analytics, for even retargeting to AI machine, machine learning algorithms, the companies are buying it before they get into analyzing this. If assuming one company buys full profile of each person to understand if this person living in this zip code, and in that case, how much your data will bring you each time it gets sold. Sold means through API, they will come take a copy of it. That's all. But any PII data, nothing will be sold. Even if you want to sell your personal information, it's illegal first, and second, everything will be hashed, even your email addresses.
Right. And while you were saying that, something came to my mind. It's obviously aggregated algorithms, right? Are you also looking into that when you were thinking of Swapp? Obviously, like Facebook algorithms and like YouTube, Amazon, and how they actually react and collect versus how you guys are designing or looking into monetizing that.
So the data sources won't share that proprietary information with us, but we have the luxury of creating our own sort of recipe or algorithm of what dictates the ideal person to show any ad to. And that, like most machine learning, is reverse engineered. You take a group of people who ended up purchasing something and trace back all the places they went to before that and find things in common. They all looked at this website and 82% looked at this website. And I have an interesting story. So Zillow did the huge real estate website. They did an analysis of what the number one thing that everyone who ended up buying a house, one website that like 80% of people looked at before ended up buying the house, and none of these data companies had this one website as part of their algorithm or recipe. And you know what that one website was? The sex offender website. It's the website you go to where you can type in an address and see if there's any registered sex offenders who live around where you're going to. So imagine if you have kids, you can look at a lot of different houses, but what ended up happening is before they actually put an offer on that house, they check to see if there's any sex offenders around there because they have young kids or, whatever. So that's what machine learning and reverse engineering can uncover, is what paths people take to get to a purchase.
Yeah, that's one good point to show. Most companies doing it, reverse engineering everything. Here, since you said we are not going to have, through even you verify your different accounts, different platforms, all the information they give. Therefore, that's the reason for you to install the browser extension in order us to see, you can provide that data yourself, that what I did on the Amazon, what I did here, what I did in this, which kind of things I looked at. And then all those, it will start creating different, basically, models to identify what ends up happening at the end, because all things like aggregated under one roof, just using that extension will help everybody, you to earn more money, and as well as the algorithms to be much more cleaner and much more precise, coming to the point that trying to get the dirty data, clean it, and go different steps.
Well, definitely looking forward to the information you're providing and the market share that you're taking away from, for example, all these big companies that are collecting the data, if it's not available right now. But
can we?
I want to just data. 1 second. We are not trying to get the share of the data.
I understand, but they are using that data to just for like third parties, right? And then this data is now being owned by the owners and the users themselves. So definitely would have an impact on the market.
Yes,
right.
bringing
And
back
the best thing that could happen is that in a year from now, this has so many millions of users on it, and so much of those users' data is now sort of democratized and put into a safer
Exactly.
place, that Google and Facebook start trying to figure out, how do I buy out this company? Well, they
Right.
can't, because
Yeah.
everybody owns it. But if they want to try and buy a bazillion tokens, then that's going to dramatically increase the price of everybody's who's holding those tokens, including the millions of end users that have the app installed.
It's the retail.
Yeah, another thing, if company, as I said, any feature you want to create will be voted by community to do, as long as same thing as creating something significant feature that can impact the future of this company. Therefore, we put it in place. No one individual entity or related parties can own more than, can have as many tokens they want, but they cannot have more than 10% voting power. In order, if they do own 60% of the tokens, that in reality it's a 60% voting power. No, it's 10% voting power, 5%, 50% that they own, and will be increasing every leftover 40% that's coin. Each will have 4 times higher voting power, so they can compete against each other. So that's the one thing we added there for future purposes. Who knows what can
Well,
happen?
that's a great impact for sure. My last question, I don't know if it might be related or not, but like with obviously with the rise of fake deeps and deep fake, I mean, videos and contents and also the bots, would that be also kind of like we're going to seeing some authenticated and unauthenticated contents or even like data that could be
Yeah.
verified or not through your
Right.
platform?
So that's where it's important to have a truth set, is what it's called. It's basically the single beginning point of what an account can be and how it's tracked. So we can only use identifiers that are totally unique, like a device ID. So
Right.
if only one device ID can be linked to one account, then a bot or a malicious actor would have to have a bazillion phones in order to have, thousands of accounts. So we have every measure in place to try and, ward off those types of things. Could there be some type of, bad actors out there that start gaming the system? Yes, but we think that our security protocols will be ahead of that.
And besides, not only device ID, you have to connect phone number, email address. It's a combination of few things. One profile can have multiple devices. I have iPad, I have phone, computer, everything. It will be recorded in your profile in order to protect your data. But if you create a new profile from this one of those or any other device for yourself, secondary data, you need to verify, first of all, you have to have a phone number, additional, you have to have an email address, additional, you have to have, and besides that one, we match it back to the existing databases. If you never existed in this combination, I mean, it's fake.
Right. Right.
Of course, you can get creative, and we are working. It's not perfect.
That might be the solution for that. We can use NFTs for it.
Yeah, and actually, there is a excellent use case for NFTs, but it has nothing to do with art. So NFTs, what's really most exciting to me about it is its ability to track the same person and to reward royalties to all of the parties along the chain that are due royalties. So in a system like this, where tracking the right people and who's using it, who's using you in an ad is essential, wouldn't it be cool to have each person's identifier actually be also an NFT, so
Exactly.
that like Taral touched on
The passport.
earlier, if only 3 companies are licensed to show ads to you, and there's 100 of them, then we know who the 97 are that are illegally showing ads to you or don't have permission to show ads to you. So that is the use case of an NFT, or at least one of them in a database system like this.
Great. Thank you. It was all my question, but if you have further comments, please.
Few things I want to add in the Swap inside. It's just that not the data management app it's going to be. It will have your own swap pay system inside, and it will be wallet system inside, and as well as that encrypted decentralized communities where you can, let's say you have an interest, you select your interest on your profile that, hey, I like playing bowling, and then anybody selects that interest group on their profile, it will become basically you will be able to getting into that community, having a conversation about with like-minded people, and all the conversations truly decentralized and uh, encrypted. That will be because anybody eventually, as soon as we can make it open source as fast as we can, anybody will be able come dig and tell us that what we are doing wrong. And so that is why I am thinking of additional things in the building a community, your own community, and plus to that one, NFTs we talked. NFT designers, creative people can design, different NFTs inside and provide it. That is on our roadmap as well. They can sell. You will have your own business cards inside. They can create some NFTs unique and sell you as, instead of giving somebody your business card, you can pass that NFT as a business card. Now, truly,
of course, yeah, it's all sorts of applications for NFTs and even using passports.
Yep.
And that's
perfect. Thank you.
Sorry.
And no, any more comments?
Yeah, I want to thank you just for your time and taking the time and discussing all this, and hopefully it will be very informative for the audience. And
well, I actually learned a lot for sure, and definitely looking forward to the lunch. I wish that I had downloaded, or there was a version on my laptop that I could download before this conversation. So then all these people are going to be pissed off at me, all these companies.
No, so what?
Because now they've realized that we all have been discussing about them. So
right. So just want to let everyone know that today is the first day of launch. So anyone who's interested in reserving swap tokens could come to swap.org and click on get tokens, or you can come directly here, which is dap.swap.ee. And day one is right here. So all you need is a MetaMask wallet and ETH, and you can get tokens.
Sounds great.
Sounds good. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. It's a really great project. I can see there's like so much that you can scale it up with different like layers out there. I was just like thinking, I mean, since obviously like I have like 4 or 5 devices, right? And if like, because it's kind of like an exchange that you guys are using, a data exchange, and why not using or like asking people for their passports? Like for example, like all these like wallets and exchanges that we sign up, they all require a passport. So then you can just uniquely have only one person to be identified to that. I don't know like how it could go with the kind of like legal aspect of it with your company. But also, and I was thinking that perhaps you can also add another feature on the platform that I would collect all these like tokens, and if I want to convert them to Ethereum or not, but then I would just loan them to you guys, and then I would earn interest, and then perhaps you can have kind of like monetize that one in another way.
Yep. So we have that here. So I mentioned this first pool is for stable coins. So if you have USDC or DAI or Tether or synthetic USD today, you can lend them or deposit them, stake them on the swap platform and earn interest. If you have Bitcoin,
I mean the swap token itself, so then it could add value, or like it would increase the price of the token itself, not just
lend out swap tokens.
Yeah.
Right. So we actually are forming a partnership or integration with Compound right now. And currently that will only be through or for earning extra interest on the stablecoin pool. But as swap becomes more popular and is in more circulation, it's very likely that Compound, Venus, maybe even Coinbase start offering or adding the swap token as a collateral option.
Besides, I want to mention one thing. Your data, let's say you need $5,000 today, and then all of the year you are using Swap. And we know that per month you approximately earn from your data around $1,000 with your company data and everything else, your browser extension. And using that, since everything is verified and you are a Swap user, you need a $5,000. And then you will be able collateralizing your 6 months earning or the 12 months earning, half of each earning, and taking that 5,000 ahead of time if you are holding other assets here.
It's like a crypto cash advance loan.
Exactly. And another thing, all these globalists, I mean, I'm not against climate change, but this is off the record, right? We finished the interview. So like all these globalists are talking about climate change and how much we are contributing to the environment in terms of emission and so forth. But they never talked about like how much data we are producing per day or even like per seconds, right? And imagine if we look at this way, it's also another contribution to the climate change or whatever that they call. But I mean, that would be a really great, consumer ads for you guys if you want to use that.
Yeah, I mean,
like, but then I don't know how much data we produce per day. Like obviously it's like tons of data.
It's tons.
But then imagine how could that be? But also, what is the application for the health data? Because health data is very. I work with another project. There are kind of like encrypt the health data, like genetic data and so forth. But obviously, when it comes to working with all these like silos of data or even like the data owners, different layers come, the governments, local, like so for example, within one country, even like within EU, we have GDPR. Each country in the EU is managing their own health data. It's unique. And then you go, for example, to the Netherlands, the hospital owns the data. And then you go to the hospital, there's so much complications there. The professors that are doing research, for example, in pathology, neurology, and genetic, DNA sequencing, they all have, like legacy data. They don't even use that. They don't even know how to do that because they have to convert it to VCH files or whatever that they have to convert. So what is this, like you guys also offer a solution to that, or that would be completely something?
So we want your record in Swap, your profile, to be the single source globally for everything about you, because the more that you authorize to put in there, it's being safely stored on the blockchain, and
but
everyone.
I don't own that data. That's the problem. The hospital owns that data.
So today there are certain accounts that will plug into a third-party application like the one we're building. And so the first step to get to where you want to be, and we want to be in there too, is to have maybe the first big insurance companies that have some connector that enables other systems in a safe way to communicate. That would be the most obvious first place to start. Until that we get there, until the world gets there, another way could be perhaps individual companies or organizations or hospitals could start creating connectors that make it possible for us to connect directly to them. But doing it individually like that would be sort of a mess. There really has to be like hubs. So I think there are companies like that are data companies that are trying to focus on healthcare and create those hubs that can be connected to.
I know a few companies that is doing it, that connecting that data. It is not in you on the GDPR, everything about the person. If even doesn't matter you are a hospital or you are whoever you are, but if you have my data, if I gave you permission, you might own the rights of the result, but I own my data. If I ask you, if you're a hospital even, delete my data, I don't want to deal with you, delete it. You must delete it. And then from that standpoint, every person will have a basically right or the place to log in, let's say in US, my chart. You will be able to log in my chart as soon as we feel that we are HIPAA compliant and these can handle that data, security and every standpoint. And after that one, we will allow users to import their, connect their MyChart account, and import that data. And you own, even in Europe, in most cases, there are few exceptions is there, but in most cases, it's a user has a right at least to the second copy of the data, because that you own it.
I'm based in Canada, right? And I'm Canadian citizen. I don't own my data. I have to request my health data from my practitioner, which is family doctor, or the person that did generate that data, either, for example, if it was a psychologist or even if it's a dentist. So I have to ask them to release that data. And sometimes they ask me, why do you need that? So this is ridiculous. So, I mean, that's obviously, it's kind of like a regulatory, framework.
Yep.
It's out of our...
Yes. So like most...
in Europe, they are doing it. But the solution over there was found that few startups, and then it got backed by the government as well. They are consolidating industry data. Consolidating industry data to provide user, let's say hospital data. If I go from this hospital to another hospital, my data, my background, whatever happened to me on my medical records needs to be available directly to this doctor here, automatically, as soon as it has to be centralized, connected system. So I don't have to wait 3 days to have an appendicitis surgery, and that my doctor doesn't know what the hell happened yesterday or 3 months ago. So yes, that's a regulatory, but regulation-wise, every user has a right to do it, but it's not there yet. But definitely, it needs an initiative by the young companies who can push and get crazy ideas out there. Mostly, they say, you're going to fail. Yeah, 90% of time they will fail, but one or few of them of creative ideas comes and succeeds, and that success brings a little change to the whole industry's perception how it should work in the future.
But definitely count on me if you guys are working on that solution too for the health data, because I'm already involved with that. We're building something, a pipeline in building different pipelines right now in the health, but also we're kind of like working with the Netherlands government right now. So there's like so much mess going on there, but yeah, once you guys are launching that would be definitely interested.
We'd definitely be interested in that. If there is there a company we can look at their website that's kind of
yeah, you can check shivom.io, shivom.io. And we're also getting into NFTs, so health data, NFT like DNA.
They are getting into NFTs.
Well, I'm working with a couple of projects. I'm working with Anton that introduced me to you guys on NFT marketplace they're launching, but also the health industries. I mean, with all these like vaccine passports, it would definitely make sense to have an NFT, using NFT solution to that. Obviously, it's already authenticated and verified. And like, I don't know what kind of vaccines I had, taken in the past. So every time I have to go do a kind of like a complete blood test to see what my immunity is versus different viruses or diseases, right? But with NFT, I already know how, like, for example, what my vaccination, not just for COVID itself, but like, for example, for chickenpox or any other kind of like other stuff. So obviously there's like so much solution or so much application for use cases for NFTs in the healthcare, or even like every industry. But the main purpose is with this company building a kind of like a marketplace for the data, and they also have their own token. Basically, they want to be the health care token, that could kind of like take over the kind of like the economy that is managing the health data. But it's kind of like a breakthrough, but it's also comes with a lot of challenges for sure. But it would be interesting to see perhaps if we can do a kind of a collaboration with you guys.
That is what I was thinking of. It's this kind of changes in the user data and industry. There's so many aspects out there that one company or one team, being as successful from the beginning would be really hard. But combining the forces and partnership and bringing it to the life, yes, that would be.
Yeah, like for example, we would have the health data to give to you guys, you know,
Yeah,
you
in
are
this
collecting other data.
can work each other and create.
Merge something, but I don't know how. So obviously you have to work on the token economics, but like, there's also another discussion that they might kind of like create a new system for the token economics that they, because we launched back in 2017, 2018. And now with the DeFi, obviously there's a different model. And with the NFTs, we definitely have to restructure and kind of like pivot that kind of like ecosystem too. But then it's kind of like we have Shivam Ventures, which is basically the startup that is working on the pipelines. And then we have Shivam, which is the token, the OMX, which is OMX is the health data token. So yeah, definitely would be interesting. I can definitely create a introduction group chat on Telegram to see how we can work together, but probably not in the next week or so because you guys are busy with the launch and everything. But definitely, would be interesting.
So the one challenge that exists in combining any two databases is mapping the fields. It's creating a standard that says, hey, this company calls your, I don't know, heart rate this name, and this health company calls your heart rate this field name. So it's creating, okay, if we agree on what to name that field, okay, now two of us agree. But is this also going to be agreeable to every other healthcare company in the world that wants to also integrate and call this their heart rate field? So it's creating like, what are the base fields? What's the standard we're creating, and how likely is it?
About the rest of the world, right?
Yeah.
Well, not really the rest of the world. All the other healthcare companies in the world the health insurance companies, anyone who would be feeding data into that same field, it needs to be accurate. That the data that they would send into that field, we call heart rate or last known heart rate or current heart or whatever that is the same data from all the sources.
Right, but I think that the main priority would be partnering with the hospitals that have, like, because they have the primary data, they have the raw data, right? That matters. Then we can use machine learning and AI to analyze that, and then that we can create the pipeline to do diagnostics and diagnostic research and everything, right? And then all these insurance companies and even pharmaceutical companies, drug companies would come to that because they want the data. And we have the platform, and even like, for example, the DNA sequencing kits. When you sequence your DNA with 23andMe, you don't really you just get kind of like a percentage of your ancestry, but you don't get, for example, your biome or like your genetic information, or if you have if you're prone to diabetes or cancer or anything running inherently in your company, in your ancestry or your family, right? But then with this, it obviously is kind of like a comprehensive look at, because we have the raw data, and then we use all these like machine learnings and even like combining all these like GVAs and different pipelines. Then you do cross research, and obviously you can get a better field, a better kind of like spectrum of the data. And then all these like doctors and professors just looking at the sequencing of the DNA and then analyzing it with different kind of like cross kind of like research that they do, cross analysis based on different pipelines. They can just say, for example, you have SLS. Because I was in Netherlands last month, and I was talking to like a couple of professors there. They have all the silo data, but obviously there's like a regulatory environment that is kind of like a hurdle there, because they cannot release it to us. We're doing a partnership right now to become kind of like an EU, to have an EU presence. So then we are also GDPR compliant. So that, and then if we have a local server there, we would be under their within their fire kind of like wall. Then they don't have to leak that data. Everything is central. We wouldn't even own the data. It's the platform. They enter the data, we encrypt it, we create the kind of like the file that is readable for these like doctors and like professors, and then we create the pipeline, and then there we go. It's so much easier. But then it's just like so much process, right? So, but then insurance companies, how do they get the data? I don't know. I don't even care, because I'm going to the source of the data that is actually, because they have labs they have the patients, they have the cancer patients, that they collect the data immediately there. It's fresh, and I can just onboard it on the server there. That is kind of like, my computer. I have a presence there, and then it's boom. Insurance would come to me and ask for that data, right? Because I don't even know how old the insurance, like the data that they're owning or holding on to, how old it is. Because with the healthcare, I mean, like not with the genetic, because your genetic data doesn't change, but with the other healthcare information, the data changes all the time. That's why you have to have a track record. Like, for example, if you did your blood pressure yesterday, doctor recommends you do it today at the same time, or like tomorrow. You need that, right?
And that's a cool thing about one of our integrations on our roadmap is to integrate with Fitbit and with Apple Watch. And imagine your profile knowing in real time, like, wow, his heart rate's really high, and it looks like he just went to the doctor and these things were found. Putting that information together could actually give you like real time, understanding of this person is going to have a heart attack soon or something.
Exactly. And also, we're working with athletes, right? So we have like, well, two years ago, we were working with this like Olympic athlete, and he was also saying like what kind of problems they have, and they have to do like, because he's a professional athlete, a runner, like 2 times, I think, gold winner, but then they have to do weekly blood tests. And this is not really, I mean, it's not, because the whole like thing changes, and it's not sustainable for them. They need a better system, and they need a better track. Like they use like Excel sheets, right? You don't really need that. You need algorithm, because these guys are professionals, and at the same time, you need that data to be anonymized, because it's so competitive. If for example, like Mayweather is boxing against Mike Tyson, if he knows what his performance is before the match, they can always change that. Like it's all about like competitivity and all these like competition too, and even like the same diet, what kind of diet these guys are. They're like they're very, very kind of like cautious of releasing that data. But then imagine that data has been being anonymized, and then you can compare all these athletes' performance against each other. But even we don't know who's who, but it adds up. It adds a lot to that industry, which is multi-billion-dollar industry. Or even like we were talking to a diet company based in San Francisco. Like the guy is a very influential. Like he's been in opera and everything. One of the founder. And they do like kind of like white label solution, but at the same time they're using a lot of like AI for kind of like creating the customized like diet.
AI.
Well, and that data is very important. I think they partner with one of the biggest gym in the US. I don't know what the name is. With like 9 million gym goers. What is the biggest
LA
one?
Fitness, Gold's Gym.
And you open that link I sent on the message. I can introduce you guys to this company, DG, one of our investors on Swapp, early investors when we started building app. They are investing in this company. I know these guys from UK. And this company is consolidated if you download this app, available on the App Store as well, you will see what data they have available, and then where you can log in. All US my charts, everything else, you log in, they compile that data. Now another apps, there's another healthcare analytics app that builds on top of the data that they are collecting with the user connects here, and for control purpose only. No, they don't give basically money or anything to you. Just you see what's going on, where's all your data in one place. They just added the social medias, everything else, but they are well known. They got really good investment last year for the healthcare side. In they're located, and then you said it's not possible to do, but because you as a company coming to that hospital from outside is not possible. But if the user, everybody else will come connect their data source, doesn't matter healthcare or anything, as long as this is HIPAA compliant.
Yeah, the problem is they don't own it. Like in for example, like in the Netherlands, you don't own it. Hospital owns it, and hospital doesn't release it.
But I think there's a difference. Like
Yeah.
I think there's a difference and a little bit of a misunderstanding. We, even in the US, I have to go request my health records and like sign a
Right.
form and everything. But once I have it, I do own it because I'm holding it. So I think that's
then,
the difference.
Yeah, I totally get it. But then imagine how hard it is to educate people. You know, I have to tell them, can you request that from your government? And for example, case in the Netherlands, we have a lot of issues. First of all, they're not really ambitious. Like, I mean, the ecosystem is not like, and then they don't speak English. I mean, they speak English, but mostly Dutch. And then they were like, who are you? Are you a Dutch company? It's also that kind of like, I don't know, I don't want to say racist, but race factor. But it is so much easier to work with the businesses B2B than B2Cs, because we did evaluate that. It's like so much hurdle, because now I have to be kind of like, it has to be a peer-to-peer, a company to an individual, which is GDPR compliant. Like I have to sign a lot of legal things, and they can sue me because if they don't understand one clause and then they say, okay, you violated my right and you violated my data, then I'm screwed, you know. But then dealing with a hospital is so much easier, because then we would have an understanding. It would be based on, for example, research, not even kind of like monetization of their data, right? It would be creating kind of like a solution for the hospital, which is currently they have issues. They have silos of data. They have legacy data they can't even read, because those platforms have been, for example, specifically CGIs, have been acquired by Chinese governments, or sorry, by Chinese companies in the field, and nobody can work with the China.
Right.
But then we bring that kind of like API, we bring that kind of like solution. So then yes, we can work with them, but then we have to be compliant with them. So it's so much like healthcare. I've been working. It's interesting, but it's very complicated.
Yeah, it's frustrating. So I think you'd probably agree, and you touched on this. The best way to disrupt something that's insurmountable, like is to build a product and a database and a platform so big that you just can't be ignored anymore.
Exactly. It's the elephant in the room, you know.
Right.
And like literally everywhere I go, I bump into that elephant, because I know that's the problem. So we have to remove it. And by remove it, we have to solve it.
That is really hard right now to find. If you can make people lazy and give them ready results easily, everybody will start use it, even if that would be against law, or law eventually will be adapted under it. Like take it from every successful company, every successful platform that was launched made us some way, somehow lazier.
Exactly.
It made also more lazier. It's going to be, I'm going to use it more. And that's all.
And scarcity. I think if we make it complicated, if we make it limited, and then I think it comes with the value, right? And the more mysterious it is, I mean, look at people are buying Dogecoin. Like I talk to people, like, literally, I talk to people, they're like, oh, do you do cryptocurrency? Like, even like I'm in Dubai right now for a couple of conferences, and like you know, there's so many not uneducated, but like regular people not active in the blockchain. I'm like, do you know what cryptocurrency is? Like, yeah, I have Dogecoin and I have Ethereum. I'm like, are you kidding me? Do you have any Bitcoin? Like, no,
right,
just Dogecoin.
It's a general ignorance of the industry.
It's general, but at the same time, I mean, look, it's just the meme. And then, I mean, like, look at this, and everybody owns that. And now every exchange is listing it, like blockchain.com wallet. They just listed it last night.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you kidding me?
Well, Dogecoin does have a huge market cap, and that's just simply because it's been around for so long, and now it's because of Elon Musk pumping it. I think it could crash 90% on Monday.
Yeah.
Well, I doubt it, because it's just keep going up. And as long as he's bringing that concept, we're going to the moon, and we're bringing, you know, Shiba dog there, so probably it's gonna go to the moon.
Question about this platform.
Yeah,
sure.
Is we do see, we've always talked about having these profiles be as complete as possible, and incorporating health data into it in a secure way is, has always been on the roadmap. Is there a way to, partner now with this to at least like start figuring out what those fields should be, and to figure out how we could connect perhaps?
Because
Oh,
what
with Swapp project?
yeah, this Shiva, your project that you are working with.
Yeah, for sure. Well, because we had a call today, kind of like we've been working on, obviously with the DeFi rising, we might actually change the product. Well, we have a different product too, but then we need to change everything. We need to reset probably the token, so it hasn't been finalized. So like this website and all these features might change, but I think the best way would be, because we're in the process of changing and pivoting, using the token economics, and like obviously the token has to jump up. Perhaps I think it would be better to set up like another group chat on Telegram, because all these are going to be updated, and I don't know how this is going to be updated. But usually how we go with the partnership is, well, like if you guys want, we do sign, NDAs, and then we discuss like how perhaps we could kind of like where the common sense is, or where the common work for us is. So since you guys are dealing with the data, you don't have data, health data, but then we have like different pipelines. We have GWAS, and we're working, for example, with kind of like UAE, like some clinics, for example, in Kuwait, to get genetic data, and then, for example, we'll be working with India. It's kind of like massive genetic information. So that probably would be a kind of like a different game changer for what you guys are doing. So I think the best way, if you guys are interested, we can do a kind of like a Telegram, like an introduction, because all these is going to change, like this website and everything. It's going to change in the next couple of days. Yeah, so I wouldn't
talk about it. We can start conversation and then get at least one meeting in a couple of weeks, or the week later, just after it slows down. Today's opening.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we can definitely do that. I can do the introduction later.
The reason is Swap. Eventually, we have a feature that this company is doing all this consolidating health data, everything else, consolidated in one place for every country. And
but then you can transfer the health data to us. We could be the health data partner.
Every who just purchases from Swap will have access to that, because Swap has like data monetization part and data purchase section, where the company creates an account on the website and then uses API integrate to Swap, and then she's purchases Swap token, pays it. Now every data sold here gets the same data gets if you are the owner of this data, it will coming back to you. But that's why I mentioned at the beginning, your user profile, at the end, you have a company profile. I'm an entrepreneur. My profile I'm selling, and my company generates a lot of data. What about I will make another source of revenue out of it?
Right. And do you guys have a marketplace?
Yes.
No.
Will
do you have a marketplace?
Third stage, probably January, will be opening then.
But then we have a marketplace, so we can merge the marketplace. You don't have to build or reinvent it. So then
Absolutely.
you could.
There's a lot of the
and then then the tokens could. But I think the most important thing would be that how we can work on the token economics to kind of like create. Obviously you have swap token, and then you have OMX token, which is going to be changing, obviously with different structure. So I think the most important thing would be how can we work around how the token might be affected here, and like how to kind of like create that kind of like utility.
There's a couple ways. Someone could earn two, or we could have an exchange occur where we're basically purchasing the equivalent value of your token programmatically, and then that gets burned, and then they receive the equivalent in Swap, or vice versa.
Exactly. And if you guys are interested in the NFTs, you don't really have to reinvent that. Working with another company that they already are providing white label solutions, so then you can just use that, and then also their platform. We're launching a couple of NFTs. First, I think it's only with stars. Like I can say that we're working with a member of a royal family in Europe that he's very involved in the tech ecosystem. So it's not just about royalty, but it's about like how they're like striving in terms of bringing their tech economy, to the world, kind of like stage, and also Europe.
Yep.
And then we have DJ Player that probably we're going to drop a couple of NFTs in her, and then we're going to be working with Howard Bloom. So he's a great philosopher. He worked with Michael Jackson and Joe Price and all these legendaries back in, I think, 1980s and 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been a very great influential, but then he has like a lot of great limited records. So we're looking to see how we can use that. So yeah, we're also working
We
in
do.
that.
So if our primary use case, as I touched on earlier for NFTs, is tracing. So the best thing to single identifier that all advertisers use is this MAID, mobile advertising ID. We call it the MAID. If we could have a platform that takes each one of these MAIDs in our database and creates an NFT out of it that enables us to trace the use of that MAID across the entire ads ecosystem, that's like $1 billion idea by itself.
Exactly. And then you can track how much revenue that NFT made, right? Because you can track it. And then I can auction that NFT, because that NFT had, for example, if it created like $1 billion revenue, so that NFT has that much amount of, value.
Yep.
And then there's another platform I'm working with that you can lend against your NFT. Like you can, so this is like mind blowing. Like you put your NFT there and then you can lend against it. So it's just going to earn interest rate.
So why not buy a $70 million painting NFT if you can borrow 50% against it?
Exactly. It's like kind of like putting your Bitcoin in BlockFi,
Yeah.
So like, and Aave, obviously Aave is one of their investors. So it's just like, what is actually happening in DeFi is like just mind blowing. I hope it's not just the hype, that comes back every 2 years, but hopefully it would just stay this amount of craziness that is happening in the market. But like definitely would like to see how we can work together. What I can do an introduction with Dan, who's running the NFT, and you can ask that question if you can, about the AMA.
MAID, MAID.
Mobile advertising ID.
And I'm sure that they can do that because they're providing this white label solution to anything for NFTs.
They can.
Is that on? Does it run on Ethereum or a cheaper blockchain? Multi-chain? Good. Because it would have to be on Solana, or one that has, very, very cheap transactions. Because this would be like a bazillion transactions.
Yes, exactly. But no, I think it's multi-chain, and they're also, if you Google Space Swap, so it's a milk token. So perhaps they can.
We know that one.
Yeah, so it's the platform by Space Swap. Yeah, it's Anton's project, obviously. So
no, we have a good.
Yeah, we're launching the NFT start. So yeah, I mean, there's so much thing you can do, but I really like the idea of that the NFT within the data and the traceability aspect of that. But as long as my name is not there.
My main goal was with the NFTs and eventually creating, as Joe mentioned at once, unified ID of the person globally. You can tag there, basically scan and put your copy of your each passport, every document. So with that NFT only, depending on where you are using, as you said, KYC. If you present that one, you sign up with that single sign-on, depending on where you are signing up, if it is wallet or the NFT, if you signed up for that wallet system or the exchange with this swap sign-on, in that case, you don't need to provide anything because this ID already it pulls and verifies. APIs will be able to transferring that information to them without giving you hard time to scan and put face, everything else. And the swap will do, I mean, if you want not to every time to scan your face, If this is your app, your verification, one time you did it, Swap will confirm that this is the same person. Basically, you don't need to.
And maybe your genetic ID is also part of your unique identifier if we could make these systems come together.
A lot of things.
Yeah, exactly. We're working on celebrities DNA NFT. That was something that I didn't want to get involved, but we'll see how that's. Who's, for example, who's gonna buy George Clooney's DNA NFT?
Somebody who wants to clone him.
DNA.
Yeah, like he was in the. Nobody cares about celebrities anymore.
It comes with the DNA itself.
Yeah, I mean, like his data is important. Like I would use that for the healthcare, but like just making a JPEG of his like NFT, like I mean DNA for NFT. I mean,
yeah, that's stupid.
Let me see how my DNA looks like.
But with the Dogecoin, I don't think any ideas are stupid anymore. So probably we can. But I think a great idea would be that if we can create the Shiba DNA code, I mean NFT for the dog, and then sell it as a and then that would be genius. It would sell a lot. Yeah, for sure.
I think paper dollar will become an NFT. Hopefully government thinks about it and makes it before everybody else
Well, they will. I'm sure that now with the Gov coin, like UK is launching a Gov coin, like all these guys are going to get into that, and then they're going to own us again. So I think I don't see a point in decentralization anymore if the Gov coins, kind of like enter the market. But we will see.
No, you can choose not to use them.
Money laundering.
Yeah, I would never choose them. But then imagine if they say, okay, you know what, each exchange, which is happening right now in Turkey, if you are withdrawing 1,200 from the exchange, you have to report it to the government. I mean, the exchange will have to report it to the government. So this is like, it's kind of like, this is crazy.
I mean, here in US, in Canada, in Europe.
Yeah, 10,000. Yeah, well, each transaction get red flagged, but if it's more than 10,000, obviously the Canadian revenue agency would get that. But at least like I know I wouldn't be withdrawing, but then imagine if they want to take custody of my Bitcoin, so that would be also different. Because now the Canadian courts, the Supreme Court has required some exchanges to report that. So it's kind of like, I mean, I think I'm going to Mars now. So
I'm looking forward to see how they are going to control decentralized exchanges. You don't need a real exchange to do all those things.
Yeah, no, but there's this Coinsquare exchange that I think they're working with Hong Kong. That's why they have to kind of like report every time that they do that.
Kraken just lost a lawsuit against IRS won the lawsuit against the Kraken yesterday. Now Kraken has to send all the user customer data to the IRS to US.
Yeah, Coinbase does that.
Yeah, well, they do from
Coinbase. Yeah, the Coinbase does that, and before even like being IPO, right? PayPal does it. Like all these, like I mean, yeah, that's the problem with the government. Like,
if you have a license, you have to deal with that one. You have to report it. I mean, there is no other way. I mean, you must report it if you have a license. We are getting a license in Switzerland right now for the Swap as a money bank license. Swap will have a bank cards, debit, credit cards, everything else you can use without taking your money to any other exchange. That for that purposes, we are getting it. Already it's kind of first week of the June, second week of the June will be transferred legally everything from Estonia to Switzerland based on that license. And over there, you have to, if you have that license, FCA, you have to comply with FCA and money laundering, KYC, everything else. And all your transaction has to be passed along to any government you are getting a license with US. If you want US people to invest in that one, you have to pass that.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was another question. Where are you guys based in? I mean, like legally, you've been incorporated in
Tallinn.
Estonia?
Yeah.
Estonia?
Yeah, next month it's going to be switched to the Switzerland, Zurich.
Well, the former prime minister of Estonia was our early advisor for Shivan project, Tabby.
Cool.
Yeah, we're advisor to Everest ID as well. He's advisor to Everest ID. ID
Everest, oh, okay.
We are compiling that government data, user data as well. That's also data company. They have
yeah, he's very innovative. Obviously, he kind of like created the e-residency. But anyway, it was great talking to you guys. I'll definitely do the introduction with Shivam. And if you want for the NFT, I can do that. But since you already know Anton and NFT Star, but who's going to edit this? Is that Anton's group?
We have person can edit it. What portion you need to be edited? This, of course, portion after the usage stop.
Yeah, so on your discretion, as long as like these conversation off the record is not being there, so that would be perfect.
I'm gonna be off the record. That we'll cut it. And then my answer, describe yourself, wasn't good at all.
Yeah, so because I mean this is Swapp, right? So I was just like interviewing you guys and asking questions. So if you don't like one section, I mean.
No. I mean you make the decision. Show is yours. I mean stage is yours. I'm not going to touch anything.
I know, but no, I don't really. I really liked everything, but then there might be some like pauses. Then
right.
just like that with the edit. But yeah, I mean it's up to you guys.
We can get somebody edit that one or connect it with you, give the file to him so you see.
I mean, and I know Anton does that because I'm working with another podcast with them. So their team does that, but I don't know if he's doing that or not. But yeah, I'll ask him if he can get in touch with you guys, so then we can decide. I don't have any problem. Yeah.
Sounds good then. Thank you very much. I really
thank you so